Welcome back, friends. I really keep hoping that I can start saying some good news about Giants, and after every couple of days of me thinking about that, it seems like they end up coming out with something else that's at least questionable by the community. Now, I will say I don't really consider this one bad news, and let me get into everything before you judge me on that, because I know I'm going to have people jumping in the comments screaming that I'm backing up Giants and things like that, but it's not really the case. I need to explain everything before you jump on me for that. You've probably seen this already. It's been out a couple days now at this point. Giants has now signed a publishing deal with Straight4 Studios, so that Giants will be publishing the new Project Motor Racing, and I know that there's going to be people worrying that this means that Giants is going to be focusing less on Farm Sim, and there's going to be more problems with Farm Sim, things like that. Two things to keep in mind with that. First off, and the only one I'm going to touch on right now until I read through a little bit more for us, FS25 is pretty much done. There's been some discussion on this, like in my comments and elsewhere, but I mean, let's be honest. We've got maybe 2 months that they could keep working on the game before it has to be shipped. So, I mean, it's pretty much done. You're not going to have the entire team over at Giants, the entire company working on FS22 at this point. They should be in bug fix, and that's about it. There's a chance that they could be doing things other than bug fix at this time, but realistically, when they're this close to their release date, they should just be doing testing and fixing. And we really hope that they are, so that we don't have a ton of problems when it releases, since they don't do any sort of beta testing, alpha testing that we see as a community. I'm sure they do stuff like that in-house, but they aren't putting it out to have millions of people test it for them. That's the big benefit of doing an open beta or an open alpha, is you've now got a million playtesters instead of somebody or a few people within your, 90, 100 person company, something like that. So let's take a look at what this really means, though. This is the press release from Giants. We've got a lot of just kind of boilerplate nonsense stuff. They're now plowing onto the racetracks. Okay, cool. But let's take a look at, what they're saying about cooperation and about the new sim racing generation. After carefully establishing a self-sufficient publishing with international distribution network, privately held Swiss-based Giant Software is striving to grow further. Now, I think that's one of their big things. They're striving to grow. Not that Farm Sim isn't growing by itself, but they're looking to grow the company itself more so than just Farm Sim. With all the capabilities in-house, a successful history of strategic brand alliances and infrastructure proven through multiple projects, this partnership of combined strengths marks another milestone by expanding our genre expertise, states Giant Software CEO Christian Amann. I think I always say Amann there, don't I? It's Christian Amann. All right. I don't know that this would really be growing their expertise. It would certainly be growing their expertise in distribution, or it should be. I don't know that it's really expanding their expertise into the racing genre. This isn't Giants making the game. They might give some help a little bit here and there, but it's not like software, or it's not like Straight4 Studios is a brand new company. So this might just be kind of marketing mumbo jumbo. Giant Software and Straight4 have already aligned internally to combine expertise in marketing, brand cooperation, and simulation-centric game development. We are very excited about Project Motor Racing and welcome Straight4's genre-leading talents with their decades of know-how recreating the world of adrenaline-fueled motorsports to our simulation venture, Amann adds. So maybe Giants is even kind of trying to pick the brains of Straight4 to help them with Farm Sim. Maybe Giants wants to create their own racing game, which would be a little bit weird, and I can't imagine that Straight4 Studios would be very happy if their distribution company all of a sudden makes their own competing game. But who knows? Redefining sim racing with a new generation of physics engine. Developed by talents that have crafted some of sim racing's most beloved and significant titles from the last quarter century, Project Motor Racing blends 20 years worth of racing simulator know-how into one of the most anticipated sim racing titles in years. Our partner with Giants is the last piece of the puzzle for development of Project Motor Racing, says Ian Bell, CEO of Straight 4 Studios. It's fantastic news not only for our studio, but for the sim racing genre as a whole. Those who are familiar with Giants' best-selling franchise will recognize why this partnership is going to refresh the sim racing genre in ways that the community is going to love. I don't know if I'd really claim that, but again, it's marketing mumbo jumbo, right? They need to create their own hype for the game, and they're probably trying to essentially steal some of Farm Sim's customers to come play their game that maybe wouldn't have otherwise. Project Motor Racing is being actively developed for PC and consoles. Details are scheduled to follow soon, and check both of them for more information. The biggest thing I've seen worried about is that members of the Farm Sim community are going to think this is going to detract from Giants' focus on FS. I really don't think that will. Now, I'm going to preface this all. I have no experience whatsoever in distribution of video games. I'm not an expert. I'm not a shmee. I don't know about video game distribution, but I have worked in and around a lot of small companies that have dealt with distribution in other retail areas. And in my opinion, distribution is distribution. You've got differences when it comes to software distribution because of things like Steam and Epic Store and everything like that, where you can do digital distribution instead of physical. But I mean, here's the thing. When it comes to something like that, it's all business deals. Right? It's all just kind of setting up with the company for them to sell your product, whether that's Steam, whether that's Epic Store, whether it's GameStop, right? It's a matter of making sure that you can get your product into their store one way or another. So, you know, we're going to pull up Paint here real quick so that I can kind of show what I'm looking at, what I'm thinking. If we've already got Giant Software, but we've already got Giant Software making Farm Sim, right? So Giants makes Farm Sim. Farm Sim then has to get distributed to various different stores, different places, right? So we've got Farm Sim having distribution deals through Giants. So essentially you could go back up and then come down, but we'll kind of keep it lumped together because realistically it's all the same company. It's kind of the same thing. So we've got them going to places like Steam. We've got them going to Epic. We've got them going to, we're going to say Microsoft for things like the Xbox store, or, you know, we can even say, you know what, that's Microsoft plus Sony for their digital store, things like that, right? And we've got them going to physical locations like GameStop, just to come out with something easy, whether that be GameStop, Best Buy, Target, Walmart, you know, any of the physical distribution sale sites. So Farm Sim already has all of these deals and contracts. And Giants already has to have people at Farm Sim that are tasked with making all of these deals, arrangements, things like that, and dealing with their distribution companies that they have that are going to these places, because they may or may not be completely doing distribution in-house. I know they claim to be, but I don't think it's Giants trucks shipping all of those, right? They have partners that they work with to do things like this. So now they have Project Motor Racing coming in to work a deal out with Giants, so that all Giants is really going to do essentially is feed PMR through all of these channels that they already have set up, right? And now this is looking a little bit crazy, but that's okay. All they're doing is taking PMR and replacing FS with PMR and sending them out through all these different distribution hubs, let's say. So really, that just means that the 2 to 3 person team, I would guess, that does this at Giants, you know, we've got 90 some people in the company working out distribution deals. We're probably going to be somewhere between like 1 to 3 people total. So we've got 1 to 3 people at Giants doing these deals. Wow, that looks awful. Let's do this. Let's make that a little bit nicer. We've got 1 to 3 people that work at Giants doing all of these distribution deals and setting this up. So really, it's kind of like if we take this 1 to 3, move it down here, and reconnect everything so that they're going to each of these places. That means that now, instead of spending all of their time focusing only on Farm Sim, and maybe they're doing some other stuff, because to be honest, it probably wouldn't take 3 people, an entire full-time position, constantly to do this. But now they get to do it with a second game, which really shouldn't be that much more work. And again, I don't know distribution when it comes to software. I know distribution on other things, and I know that as a small company, as a small business, once you start doing your own distribution, it really doesn't matter how much you scale it until you get to a point where it's too big for those people to manage, right? But if you're talking, I'm gonna change this up a little bit just to kind of explain where I'm looking right here. We are going to shoot a big old line over here just to kind of separate this off. But I'm going to explain this in a way that I know a little bit better so that I'm not confusing anybody. So if we've got Giant Software with their 1 to 3 people, I need to get myself one of those little tablets to write on if I'm going to do this sort of stuff. All right. We've got Giant Software with their 1 to 3 people that are in charge of distribution. I'm going to relate this to physical boxed games because it's going to be a little bit easier for me. But really, you can sub in anything you want in terms of that, right? It doesn't matter if they're selling groceries or anything else. They're selling a physical product, we're going to say. So they take their physical product, which we're going to say is right there. So that is their game, and they're going to make deals to sell it through, let's say, Amazon, GameStop, Best Buy, and Walmart. So they have deals with every single one of these companies that these companies will carry their game. And that might sound a little bit weird, but that's the way it works, right? Especially like if you've ever seen like Shark Tank, Walmart tends to pick up new products a little bit faster than some other companies will. They're willing to give them a shot because their stores are so big that if they get something in to sell and it doesn't sell, they're not that concerned about it. But they'll get Amazon to buy, let's say, let's make this easy. They get each company to agree to buy 100,000 copies, right? 100,000 of their game to sell. So each of these stores buys 100,000 physically. That deal might take weeks, it might take months to set up. This is why they need these 1 to 3 people doing it, because it's going to take time to work with each of these individual companies and work with whoever at their company is in charge of purchasing. Because each of these companies are going to have one team. It depends on how big the company is to how many people they have. They have one team that's actively in charge of making decisions on purchasing. Really, what we can do is we can say that they're actually not. They've got one team that's in charge of purchasing. So Giants is going to be making the deal with that one team. They don't make the deal with Amazon directly. They make the deal with their team. And that must have been a pen. They make the deal with the team of purchasers for Amazon to carry and sell the product. Now, it really doesn't make that much of a difference once they have those contacts and those relationships established if they're making the deal only for Farm Sim or if they now also make the deal for an outside game like PMR. So if Giants is now just kind of doing the exact same thing and saying, okay, our team is now going to take PMR and contact all of our established relationships to get them to carry 100,000 each of PMR as well. Yes, it's more for Giants to do. It's more for their team of distribution to do, distribution team, whatever you want to refer to it as. But it's not that much more work. It's just, hey, we've got another game. Here's a contract. And they're just trying to sell the second game as well. So I don't think it'll distract from FarmSim at all. And in fact, it might. Now, this is just in relation to the distribution. Them distributing another game might help FarmSim. Okay? Because now the distribution of PMR, they're going to get a cut of that one way or another. It all depends on however they set up the deal with PMR, right? That was why Giants left their old publisher and started self-publishing with FS22, is supposedly the other publisher was doing bad deals and wasn't helping with marketing and things that they're supposed to do and was taking too big of a cut. So, let's say that Giant Software now makes 1% of all sales of PMR. Well, that 1% could pay for these 3 people that are doing the distribution deals, which means that FarmSim now has less to worry about their distribution team in their income and expenditure. They are now getting paid for just by this, meaning that FarmSim no longer is having to foot the bill for their distribution team. That would be a good thing, because that just kind of means there's more money available for FarmSim if they do it that way. They could also just say that there's more money available now for the CEO, the CTO, the founders, and all the rest of their C-suite employees to get a higher bonus. Not saying that's what will happen, not saying that's what won't happen, but it could kind of go either way, where it's a matter of this, 1% that should be paying for them could just kind of be a kickback to elsewhere. But hopefully that'll pay for them. And then the money that would have paid for their distribution team can get funneled right back into FarmSim. Will it? I don't know, but it could. So it could be a really good thing for them to be distributing to, or for them to distribute PMR as well. Now, whether this will kind of shift the focus of Giants in general, I don't know. That's the sort of thing only time will tell. Now, there's been reports, and I've seen it in my chats, and I've seen it elsewhere in the internet. I haven't seen anything that I'll call 100% concrete on it. And anyone that's made these comments, don't take it the wrong way. I'm not saying that I disagree with you, or you're wrong, or I don't believe you. Somebody making a comment in my video is somebody making a comment on one of my videos. That does not mean you truly have the knowledge to back it up. If I were to hear something from Christian Amon, which realistically, I think a lot of this should have been put out in, or talked about in a video with Christian Amon. I think he should be doing a lot more to talk to the public, which he doesn't, or doesn't seem to be, at least from what I've seen, but it is what it is. Supposedly, Giant Software originally wanted to be an engine development company, not a game development company. And I have seen this quoted multiple places, but not from somebody that even claims that they are in or were in with Giant Software at some point. Now, if that's true and Giants is now shifting towards publishing, who knows? Maybe they are going to focus less on FarmSim. Maybe the FarmSim team in general is going to stay the size that it is and Giants will grow. So maybe Giants is going to start becoming more of an actual software development company, or more of an actual company, right? Like if you look at Ubisoft, you're going to have them up here, and then each of their game teams are going to look like this, right? And maybe that's going to be kind of how Giants turns into, that they've got Giants, and then they've got FarmSim, and then they've got distribution and whatever else they start getting into, right? Maybe they do manage to find somebody to buy their engine. So they've got their engine team, their FarmSim team, their distribution team, whatever else they want to do. And it's not just as big of a focus on FarmSim. That could be. That doesn't necessarily mean anything bad for FarmSim either. That just means that Giants as a whole is growing and is taking more things into focus than just FarmSim, right? I mean, we could still have this be the exact same size as it is here, just that Giants has gotten much bigger. So if Giants has a total of 90 employees, let's say that right now 60 of them make FarmSim, and then you've got the other 30 employees that are doing, your distribution deals, your marketing, everything else that doesn't have to do with FarmSim itself, all the admin stuff. This could stay at 60, and they could hire more people so that instead of 1 to 3, this becomes a team of 10 or 20 or 30 or whatever, and that maybe they start hiring people who work on their engine separately if they sell it, and that becomes another team of, let's say, 30, just for example. We're growing the size of the company. We're just not worrying about growing farm sim as much or shrinking farm sim as much, because this income is a fairly set amount now, right? Farm sim is growing, but it's not growing so rapidly that they are going to make a ton more money off of it than they do right now. So they're looking to branch out and make money elsewhere, which is kind of what this publishing deal is, right? They're looking for new income streams to Giants so that they can expand Giants and grow that, not just grow Farming Simulator. It's kind of, I think, why they did like the Farming Simulator League and things, which, I mean, let's be honest, that also changes the way they look at Farming Simulator, because with FSL, they've got to make sure that when they make Farming Simulator, it will work for FSL. It's the exact same problem that you've seen in some like the FPS games, where they focus too much on the competitive aspect in terms of dealing with actual like national competitors and things, and either doing what they want or not what they want, as opposed to just looking at making a good game, because now they have to make sure that it will work for the Farm Sim League or for the competitive league in general if we're looking at other games. So hopefully this will be a good thing for Giants and a good thing for Farm Sim. I'm not saying specifically, way to go Giants, this is fantastic. I'm not saying that this is horrible for Giants. You know, they've just announced that they're doing this. We have no idea what's going to happen. We don't. And I'm not going to start making all kinds of crazy, wild speculations about what this means or what this is. So let me know what you think down in the comments. I know you will. You have with most of my videos about Giants in general. Good or bad, indifferent, or we just have to wait and see. I really think we have to wait and see with whatever happens to it, and hopefully it comes out the best it possibly could. Giants growing is not a bad thing for anybody other than their competitors, but you know, that is what it is. Thank you for watching. Have a fantastic day and happy gaming.